everybody. I just wanted to do a quick video on my first 5 matches with the deck list here. I'm just going to go over those really briefly and just talk about like anything I learned, just initial thoughts after 5 matches. Again, not a big sample size at all, but this is just about getting my feet under me, shaking off first mistakes, kind of getting more of the flow of the deck, and then kind of going from there. So all these matches I did were on Lorcana. So first match I had, just reviewing notes over here, was against Rumi Amethyst. So unfortunately, I had a 1 drop, but I didn't have any 2 drop. I did mull 4 cards. I was on the play, so I was trying to get a relatively aggressive start to the game. And then a bunch of like initial questions came up for me right away, which was like, when do you pop the Churner Bogs when you're on the play? Like how long do you gamble it? I wouldn't quest it into just an obvious trade situation and lose the card. If I'm on the play, I'm going to be down a card already. But just at what point do you pop it and not risk losing it to like a fox or something like that? For inking, like when do I ink Belle versus Elsa? I think Elsa's probably the more overall powerful card, but as you kind of work through the first few turns, I faced the point of like, okay, should I hang on to Belle? Should I hang on to Elsa? Belle's a bigger body that quests for more. Elsa gives me a little bit more tricks, but that's another just kind of interesting question that I need to perfect or I need to perfect in my play. How easy do you let Smee go was a really interesting question for me because it's, quests for Smee with Smee once, get 2 lore, but it gets a damage. A Churnabogs can just trade into it and take it right out, and then you're done. Like, is Smee better than just getting 2 lore and then cashing it in for a Churnabogs? You're denying them a card, but, what's the best way to use Smee in this matchup? Because it can also become dead if you, like, end up landing, like, a Sisu 3 cost, and now it's like, well, you can quest with it, and then they just take it out for free. That doesn't seem great either. So how aggressive do you let those Smees go is a question that I have that I want to try to answer as I continue to play more. Pete didn't seem great in this matchup despite being able to delay B prep. As I played this matchup, it felt that delaying B prep really only matters if you have a strong amount of pressure. If I'm at 4 lore or 6-8 lore even, and I have 2 characters on board, how good is it to really, try to pee and delay a B prep when I'm not winning anyways? Because I'll just wait and do it the next turn, and then you get blown out a little further. It delays your own development. So, I think P is probably best when I am cruising, like, with, Little Tink and Genie or something like that, trying to crush lore. And then I want to stop the B prep. Like, I see the use, but like, there were times where I was like, okay, well, I could Pete right now and delay B prep, sure, but I barely have anything on board anyways. Or we're at parity when it comes to lore, or even like if they had a reasonable amount of board on there too, on their side, like it felt very specific where it's like, okay, this is going to be good if I'm ahead, they're behind, and B prep is their out, then it's good. Otherwise, it just felt kind of mediocre. But I could have that wrong too. So I'm really curious to hear how other people like to use Pete in this matchup. A Pete bounce situation could be valuable. So it's like maybe there's a game state where I get to a place where I'm like, I'm going to Pete, and that can get me there. But in my games in this one match, didn't feel super relevant. But again, I'm going to go quite a while before I make any changes. Pete's super powerful. I'm not cutting it anytime soon, obviously. Another question was, when do you quest with Big Tinkerbell in this deck against Ruby Amethyst? Because for me, I played a Tinkerbell. I quested with it, and then it was able to get Crab Fox pretty quick. And I'm not going to say like, okay, like I should just not quest with it, because they're always going to have a Crab Fox combo in some way. You're never going to be able to see that coming all the time. So better than just letting it sit there and not questing. I mean, it's 2 lore characters. That's what it's there for, is to try to get some lore. And if it helps a little on the play, then great. But that was a question. It's like, okay, so like when am I hanging on to Tinkerbell and leaving it back? When am I trying to quest and just being okay with it, trading for just 1 card? So it's challenging, but ideally I probably want to combine this with other things. Maybe I can shift and trade into something profitably, but I don't know if it's the best card against Ruby Amethyst in general. But my first game against Ruby Amethyst was tough. I ended up getting into 18 lore. I bricked 3 times in a row after a B prep, so 3 draws. It's like they B prepped when I was out of cards. And I drew Fox, couldn't play because I didn't have a bounce. Drew Twin Fire, drew smash, and then I was like, okay, well, that was enough. And first thing I said, I was out of cards, right? So maybe that's the thing, is like never let yourself get out of cards. But I was closing the game out so well that I was like, okay, well, even if they B prep, I wanted to put redundant lethal on the board, and hope to just draw out of it at 18, draw a goat, draw anything. But I drew three non cards in a row, and that's just what's going to happen sometimes. Let's see here. There were times where like Calhoun didn't feel bad in the matchup completely, but I kind of wished I had a location to go with it. Like I wish I had something that would force them to challenge into something, so then I could like use Calhoun to punish them back and at least trade it in for two lore. But that was tough. Game two, I had no one drop. And then one thing with Lorcanito that I made a mistake in this game where I accidentally discarded the wrong card with Twin Fire. We had like a mirror board where like we had the same characters on board. I play a Twin Fire, do my first target, and then Lorcanito kind of glitched a little bit, and my window popped up, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm picking my second target. Because again, it looked very, very similar, and I ended up discarding an Elsa out of my hand instead of clicking to do the 2 damage to their second target Elsa. That was just like, I need to just read the little words better, so that's a simple mistake, but that's a mechanic mistake of playing online. Lorcanito still has some bugs, love it to death, but just take your time, be careful. That was a mistake that I just made in a silly way. I overextended into B prep a little too much in this game, but again, I was trying to put my foot on the neck and just being okay with like, I'm going to quest out and try to be the aggressor. I ended up getting there with a strength play. I ended up singing strength to get some tempo, add another character to the board, and that was kind of that. One thing that was interesting about this Ruby Amethyst deck I played against is they played Cusco as well as Flynn, so they were going a little heavier on 2-drops. They also had Crab, of course, so it's just an interesting kind of take on the build. You don't see Cusco in a lot of builds prominently right now. Game three, I had some bad uninkable pain in the beginning, which is tough because this deck really only has like 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 uninkables. I thought it was 13. 3, 4, 5. That makes 9, 10, 12. Yeah, not a lot of uninkables in this deck, which is rough. Let me see if I got that right. I'm gonna make sure I have that number right. My screen's in the way. Yeah, 12 uninkables. So that's not a whole lot. People run 14 and more, all the time. So yeah, I just got some bad luck with some uninkable pain there. Mulliganing is definitely a thing where sometimes, I want to make sure I have ink to play and not mull inkable cards, draw uninkables like rabbits and genies that, end up hurting me. Twin Fire, Zeus. There's a lot of things that can happen, so you got to be careful. Make sure you have your ink. But Twin Fire did not feel great against them in this game. I had Twin Fire in my hand, just couldn't use it profitably at all, and couldn't ink it, so that just stung. I stayed in this game pretty well though, on the back of Zeus and Fox. I had a play where like if I had a strength instead of a smash, I would have been able to deal 4 to a genie and get even closer to winning. Really, really close game. They had some good draws. They had a brawl into Genie, into Tremaine with Castle when they were ahead. Like it was a good game, but that was a loss 1-2. But close games, all three of them. My second match was against Amber Steel aggro, so not Steel Song, not a whole new world list. These were really close games, all of them. Game one, I was able to get there, but it was really close. Belle, Elsa, and just like the exact tactics of what this deck does with just every little bit of the way, tapping something down, challenging into it, shifting damage over, really managing their board very carefully was the name of the game to deny all lore. They were running Tiana. This was also a dock list as well, which is kind of natural for those Amber Steel aggro lists. But they were running Tiana, which was an interesting card to play against. Fortunately, I had Zeus for it every time it came up in these games. But it's important to note that like you can't just like Elsa away Tiana, because when you exert it, then all of a sudden its effect kicks in and it's really difficult to challenge. So you really need to kind of burn that thing out or do some sort of crab fox shenanigans on it, because paying the 3 and like losing a turn is like not really something you want to do in the early game against this deck where they're going wide on you. So I won that first game. Game two, I conceded after bricking really badly. They had Cindy stormed my 1-drop. I know a lot of people say you don't always want to play a 1-drop into Cindy. Other camps like I think No I'm Not says like no, play into it and make them have it. But they did like Cindy storm my guy into double Daisy. And then I like didn't have a 2-drop or something like that, and it was over before I could even get going. So I conceded that game. I'm going to try not to concede really at all, though, and play from losing positions just for the learning experience of it. But this was like the game was over in 2 turns, so I just called it a day. That was on the draw for me as well. Game 3 on the play again. Surprisingly, Pete still didn't feel that good. Granted, this is not the Steel song list. This is just Amber Steel aggro. So they have a lot of songs, have a lot of removal, but there was never a place where I felt Pete felt great. I also, again, Uninkables hurt a little bit. I think it's just because the a lot of the Inkables I want to be playing. Like I want to play my 2-drop Smee. I want to play my 1-drops. I want to play, Crab and etc. But I had to ink goats, ink crabs, ink things to play like Genie and to play like I'm trying to think what else I even had to play, but the uninkable, like I didn't like being in a bad choice situation of having to ink things I didn't want to ink. Tiana was really scary again in this game. Fortunately, I had the Zeus again. But this was one I was able to turn the corner and pull out of without them going too far ahead of me. That deck doesn't have a tremendous lot of reach from what I can see. They try to go wide, but if you can manage that, and Twin Fire was huge in this match as well. But interesting deck though. That deck is scary. I think Doc is a great alternative to a whole new world, so it's cool to see that. So that was 1-1 so far in my 2 matches. Okay, match 3 was against traditional Steel song. I was on the play. I got there in game 1. They had a fairly slow start. They went like Cindy into no 2-drop. Calhoun was pretty good in this game just by holding off, Cindy in particular. My evasives are really good, like being able to do Tink into Genie, kind of cruised me to victory there. They were playing a 4 Naveen list, I'm guessing, because I saw two Naveens in, I think, at least 2 of the 3 games they had double Naveen, so I'm sure they had a decent amount. But Naveen's super annoying because, I try to in these games, burn out the Singer 5s to prevent Whole New World if I can. Naveen gets around that. They can just play it and then Whole New World. So that's just an interesting thing to remember. So game 1. Game 2 was a loss. I crabbed on Calhoun to take out a Robin Hood, in that game, which didn't feel great. It's really difficult when they're in the play and they just get to go off. So it's like you can get high rolled in this matchup pretty easily. Twin Fire felt great, but Robin Hood Shift is just hard to play against on the when you're on the draw. The Simba Shift is good. I should say this is the Steel Song version, basically like Frank Carson's list with Simba Shift as well as Robin Hood Shift. No Gastons or anything like that. Game 3 I was on the play, but this was just a brutal game. They had 3 Zeuses. I ended up mulling 4. I didn't get any removal in this game. It felt just like really unfair. Getting high rolled again for sure. I felt like I didn't have enough removal. Tinkerbell, Big Tinkerbell felt too slow. Didn't have the shift at that time. So that was just brutal. And I think, that's one match, what are you going to do? I'm going to learn to play this one a little bit better, but that match was a loss. Next match was against Blurple. This is match 4 now. Let's see, first game here. Tried playing Little Tink instead of Genie into them having a Genie on board, knowing that they were going to Genie and Elsa. This actually worked really well, and I don't know if this is the best play on their part, but they ended up playing the Elsa when I had Tinkerbell, and they ended up exerting a Calhoun I had and took out the Calhoun instead of taking out my little Tinkerbell. I was actually able to shift in Big Tink after that and kill their Genie after it ran into Calhoun, absorbing 3 damage. So that was kind of crazy. I didn't really understand some of the plays that they were making, but it was an interesting match in that sense. But I won game 1 on the back of that play, Big Tinkerbell, and then I was able to play my Genie after kind of dealing with their Genie Elsa situation. On the draw, this was really difficult. I don't know what I want on the draw against Blurple here. I imagine, having Crab or having something to maybe pump a Genie or a Tinkerbell to take out their Genie. Again, this is a Genie battle game, right? So it's like I was hoping for, getting Elsa's bells, whatever. But they basically just curved out perfectly as Blurple does. So they went like 1-drop into Tipo, into Genie, into Donald, into Hades, into Mufasa. That's pretty much their nuts. So there was nothing I could do that game. Game 3, I was on the play again. I mulled into no 1-drops or 2-drops somehow. I mulled 5 cards to try to, again, I'm trying to go for an aggressive start. I want a 1-drop. I'd love to get a Calhoun or a Smee, or even a Snake, just to go 1, 2 into Tink, into Genie. Like, I'm trying to follow a good curve here. Mulled 5 cards to do it, but didn't get it. Pete is utterly useless in this matchup. You know, they had friends, but there wasn't really much going on there. I somehow was able to win this game on the back of evasives. This was I had like two Tinks and two Genies at one point just going to town. So they didn't get a big a 5 cost Elsa. Didn't have a big Elsa. So this was like I think an example of like when Blurple stumbles a little bit. They don't have any removal. I just got to play Tinks and Genies and go for the win. So 1 against Blurple, 2-1. So 2-2 out of these first 4 matchups. Third matchup was a crazy one. It was against Green Steel, but it was against this Sherwood Forest version with Morph and Tinkerbell and Clarabelle, and they were playing the Beast 6 cost that readies itself when it damages a character. They were playing a Robin Hood shift line. They were playing a whole new world. They were playing Robin Hood's bow. So this is like a crazy Robin Hood damage deck with Sherwood Forest. Whole new world of all things, and a crazy amount of shift cards. This was a surprisingly tough matchup, though. Like the Sherwood Forest gives all their characters ward that move there, and the Robin Hoods move there for free. They were playing the 1 cost Robin for the shift. They're also playing the Robin Hood Sharpshooter, who can just deal damage to characters. Really, really crazy matchup, and a lot of our characters are small, so it was interesting to kind of manage that. I was able to take out the location, get ward away, so then I could kind of burn them out a little bit, burn out their side of the board. But not being able to Elsa things, not being able to target things with that forest was crazy. So really wanted more crab in that matchup. But that's again anecdotal, but very crazy. Game 2, I won. So I won this one 2-0. They kind of bricked. They ended up with a weird board of like 3 of the Robin Hood's bows. And the few characters they played, I took care of, I think. But really strange deck, but really interesting strategy. I'm sure they take plenty of people by surprise, and then I'm sure that 6 cost Beast combo can quest for a ton with all their damage abilities, and then giving their stuff ward at the Sherwood Forest is an interesting take. So really, really crazy first few games, but overall 3-2, not terribly impressive. I think I actually have my little match results here. I can show you. Give me a moment here. I'll try to pull this up. Games 1 through 5. All right, where is it? Here we are. Okay, forgive me here. Okay, so here we go. So this is actually 10 matches I played, but these top 5 were the ones that we were talking about. So Ruby Amethyst, Amber Steel Aggro, Steel Song, Blurple, and then Green Steel. Had another 3-2 run before that when I was just kind of getting my legs under me, trying the deck out, but I didn't document that at all. So those are my first 5 games. I'm not going to do any tweaks yet. We're going to get through 20 matches and then kind of go through my little Excel sheet I have here with my notes and just see how the matchups continue to go, and we'll hope for the best. So thank you guys for watching. Again, looking forward to any comments, thoughts, please. I'm trying to get better just like everybody else. So thanks for watching, and looking forward to doing the next video. Thanks.